Hi, my name is Vanessa True, and today I'm going to be discussing bisphenol A and how it affects us and our marine life. So let's start off with what bisphenol A actually is. Well, it's referred to as BPA and is a synthetic compound that contains 2 moles of phenol and 1 mole of acetone. In its physical state, BPA can be seen as a white or an off-white powder. Bisphenol A has a moderate water solubility of 120 milligrams per liter at 25 degrees Celsius. BPA is a man-made chemical that is relied on in manufacturing facilities in order to enhance plastics and make them clear yet sturdy. The usage of BPA is quite large. It is needed because creating hard and sturdy plastic products have a lot of advantages for both producers and consumers. To start, it's cheaper to produce. Hard plastics are both portable and convenient as there isn't as much of a risk to break them or destroy the product when carrying it around in everyday life. The need for BPA often comes from producing polycarbonate plastics. It's used to contain food and beverages as well as for home appliances and things such as construction equipment. BPA is also evident in baby products such as bottles, cups, and toys. Thermal receipts are a mixture of plastic and paper and is another product that is pretty dependent on BPA. According to the FDA, however, BPA is currently regarded as safe to use in our food and drinks as the amounts of BPA has a small enough dose in order for it to not have harmful and worrying effects on our health. Because of pollution, BPA and plastics end up in oceans and could take a toll on the wildlife, especially in fish and other aquatic vertebrates. BPA reaches the sea mainly through rivers, treatment plants, landfills, and by leaching from materials with BPA in them. Humans are also exposed to a fair amount of BPA as well. As stated earlier, in our packaging and containers, BPA is commonly used in the linings as a protective coat. The residue of such linings is left behind, and the BPA migrates and leaches into the food that we end up consuming. However, the amount of BPA left over depends on some factors such as the food's fat content, the amount of time BPA has been in contact with the food, the temperature of the contact, and also the type of packaging. Typically, larger amounts of residue are reported with things that are high in fat content, with higher temperatures, and with thinner packaging. In regards to bioaccumulation, the advantages of BPA products has resulted in a large amount of polycarbonate plastics and epoxy resins being produced each year. Over 7 billion pounds of plastic is produced, and 1 million pounds of those plastics are released or discarded into our environment. This takes a considerable toll on our aquatic environments and the ocean. In a study to find out how plastics have affected our waters, researchers studied the hard plastics that were in the sand and our sewers in different areas. They concluded that Hard plastics had degraded in the water and was a large contributor to BPA and its large concentration in the water. Although limited, research has shown that BPA has moderate bioaccumulative potential as it's in our wildlife, in the air that we breathe, the water we drink, and the water in our oceans, as well as the soil. The possible effects of bisphenol A are worrying as it is shown to be a disrupting chemical. One issue that many worry about regarding BPA is that it's an endocrine disruptor. As BPA enters the body, it mimics estrogen and interacts with our system and receptors in ways that could cause teratogenic effects that would disturb the embryo and fetus. This is why it is a big worry for regarding pregnancy and childbirth. The addition of BPA in water and in our food created a risk for both humans and the environment. Bisphenol A has the potential of causing hormone related cancers such as breast cancer or prostate cancer. It's linked with fertility and development issues as well. The European Food Safety Authority has responded to such concerns and worries and ended up reducing the tolerable daily intake of VPA from 50 to 40 micrograms per kilograms of body weight a day in 2015. Increased vulnerability in toxins is shown in the earlier stages of life, especially from fertilization of juvenile periods. During this stage, sensitivity to chemical stressors are high and could greatly impact the organism. The effects of BPA on aquatic vertebrates do not stray too far from that of humans. Regarding problems that regard the development, reproductive systems, and abnormalities have been observed as well. Some examples would include less male hormones and sperm density, as well as some issues of fertility and egg production. Fish are exposed to BPA mainly through their gills and also through their diet, making contaminated water a real burden for these fish. An example of the effects of BPA is shown in a 2018 study. In the study, researchers observed the effects that BPA had throughout multiple generations of zebrafish. The control group involved generations of zebrafish that were not affected by BPA, and while those that were really focused on and observed. It was noted that of all the surviving embryos, 5 to 15% of them had abnormalities. Starting with the first generation labeled F1, the following generations have all shown abnormalities and were passed down. Things such as issues in the spine, heart, the yolk sac, and things like double heads had occurred within these zebrafish. The use of BPA is relatively large, but hesitancy to use them has increased due to some concerns regarding health and the toxins in it. To help the environment and yourself, you can look for labels. Make sure to avoid warning labels that list BPA or any that would warn of cancer. Using alternatives to plastic helps stop even more plastic from being dumped into landfills and leaching into our oceans. Make sure to advocate for change by holding companies and your government responsible and let your voice be heard. So here are my citations and thank you for listening.